What's happening, dogs? Mr. Allen here with a little bit of geometry action with some angles going on here and a little dose of Algebra 1 as well. We got all of these different angles in terms of x. So bust out those algebra skills. All right, this first one here. I can't set these two equal to each other because it does not say that those two angles are congruent. But I do have a straight angle here, which I can assume, it's one of the few things I can assume in geometry, that it's 180 degrees. So I'm going to add these two angles, 6x plus 20 degrees plus 3x plus 7 degrees is equal to 180 degrees. Now I can just solve for x. Combine my like terms, that's going to be 9x plus 27 equals 180. Then I'm going to subtract 27 on both sides. I got 9x equals 156. Divide by 9, I'm going to get x equals 17. All right. So I got x equals 17. All it asks for me to do is to solve for x. However, you do want to make sure that you're not going to get a negative angle measure, right? So you do want to double check it. If I plug 17 in for both of these, I'm going to get a positive answer. We are all good to go. Usually the ones that you really want to make sure that you double check or look for extraneous solutions are when there's factoring involved and you get two different solutions. This guy right down here. That might happen. I don't know. I'm just looking ahead. All right. Next one over here. I'm going to change marker color. I'm going to go green on this one because that's exciting. All right. Find the measure of angle ABD. So this angle right here, if the measure of angle ABC, the whole thing is 140 degrees. So can I set these two angles equal to each other? Well, no, it doesn't say that they are congruent. But these two angles do make up this larger angle, which we do know is 140 degrees. So similar to this one, but we're setting equal to 140. So I've got 8x minus 10 plus 4x minus 6 equals 140. Once again, combine my like terms. 8x and 4x gives me 12x. Negative 10, negative 6 gives me negative 16 equals 140. And then I'm going to add 16 on both sides to get 12x equals 156. That's a coincidence there. I didn't plan that. Whoops. All right. So let's see. 156 divided by 12. I don't want to mess this one up. We got 13 for x. All right. So divide by 12, I get x equals 13. Guess could have thought about 12 times 12 is 144, which is 12 away from 156. If I were to do mental math, I didn't. All right. Anywho, we got x. Am I done? No. Right? Because this one asks for the measure of angle ABD. A lot of times we ask those follow-up questions, so make sure that you're answering the question. You're going to lose points if you just say 13 because that's not the angle measure. It's what x equals. So ABD is this bad boy right here. So we're going to go ahead and substitute 13 in. I'm going to have 8 parentheses 13 minus 10. So what's 8 times 13? That's 80 plus 24 gives me 104, or 104 minus 10, 94. I'm going to check it on the calculator just in case. I want to do a little bit of mental math. Sometimes it's, it's just fun, 94. Hey, a quick TI check. All right, 94 degrees. So we're going to say the measure of angle ABD is equal to 94 degrees. Beautiful. That's what that little M means, in case you did not know that. That little M means measure of angle ABD. All right. We often have a little notation like that in math classes to save us a little bit of time. All right. Let's go orange on this one. So we've got solve for x once again. All right. So solve for x, we got, what do we have here? I'm going to move out of the way because I think it's hard to see that guy. Well, these are what's called vertical angles, which means that they are congruent to each other. So I can set them equal. How wonderful. So I'm going to have x squared equals 6x plus 7. All right. Move back over here. We don't need to see that angle anymore. Okay. So if I want to solve this, it's a quadratic. I got to set it equal to 0. All right. So I didn't set things equal to 0 initially, but I do use that strategy to solve an equation. If it's a quadratic, I got to set it equal to 0. But I'm never going to set an angle equal to 0 because they're not going to have a 0 measure or a negative measure, right? So we got x squared minus 6x minus 7 equals 0. So what multiplies to negative 7 adds to negative 6? That's going to be x minus 7, x plus 1 equals 0. So we're going to have x minus 7 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. So I'll have x equals 7 and x equals negative 1. All right, now before we circle these answers, we do need to check to see if we have extraneous solutions, okay? So if I plug the 7 in here, I'm going to get 7 squared, it's 49. And in this one right here, I've got 6 times 7 plus 7, that's also 49. So this one checks out. We're good. How about the -1? Usually the -1 is like a red flag. We're like, bro, what? Negative? Can't have negative. You can't have a negative angle measure, but you can have negative x values. It's okay for the x to be negative as long as it doesn't result in the angle measure itself being negative or a segment measure being negative or an area or whatever being negative, okay? If I plug -1 in here, -1 squared is +1. So far, so good. If I plug -1 in for this x, 6 times -1 is -6 plus 7 is +1. So this is a weird scenario, not necessarily weird, but a unique, doesn't occur as often, scenario where we do actually have two solutions that work. And you might be thinking, yo, Mr. Allen, how can I have two different solutions for the same problem if this angle measure is, or these angles are fixed? Well, technically speaking, we're solving for x based on the information that's given to us here. If this angle is x squared and this angle over here is 6x plus 7, what's the angle measure? Well, it could be 49 and 49, but it could also be 1 and 1 and still work, because all we get from this one right here is that these two angles are equal to each other because they're vertical angles, and all vertical angles are congruent. All right, enough of that one. Both of them work. Positive angle measures. Circle them both or you will lose points. But if it resulted in a negative angle, that one is extraneous. Cross it out. Only put down the positive one. Okay? Cool. Awesome. Fantastic. Back to the pink marker. All righty. Find the measure of each angle here. I got 40 degrees. Yay. One's down. And then I got nothing, right? I just got 7x minus 22 degrees and 3x plus 2 degrees. Ooh. Kind of like this one, right? But just an extra angle in the mix. And I love extra angles in the mix. This is a straight angle here, which is 180 degrees. If I add these three up, they should equal that 180 degrees. So let's set up that equation. I'm going to have 40 plus 7x minus 22 plus 3x plus 2 equals 180 degrees. All right. 40, 7x minus 22. Okay, cool. All right. Always good to double check yourself before you start going ham on that algebra, and then you realize you wrote down the problem wrong. You got to solve it all over. Oh, it's the worst. Okay. So combine like terms. 7x, 3x, that is 10x. 40, negative 22, positive 2. I'm going to put these two together. That's negative 20 plus 40 is positive 20. Equals 180. Subtract 20, I get 10x equals 160. Divide by 10, I get x equals 16. All right, excellent. If you need to, feel free to show like the minus 20, minus 20. I just didn't have a ton of space, so I wasn't showing all of those steps. I'm just speaking them to you, and hopefully you got it. Okay, x equals 16. That's not what it asked for. It asked for the measure of each angle. Plug it back in, right? So we're going to plug 16 back in here. 7 times 16. You got 70. You got what? 42. So it's 112. 112 minus 22. So let's see here. Let me actually write this out. 7 times 16 minus 22. I believe that's 112 minus 22, which equals 90 degrees. And over here we got 48. So 3 times 16 plus 2. So that's 48 plus 2 is 50. Okay. And let's see that. 40 plus 50 is 90 plus 90. It's 180. So I like it. So we got 90 degrees and we got 50 degrees. We got the measure of each angle that was missing. One of them was already given. That's it, man. That's dope. All right. So there you go, guys. Key things here. Never, ever, ever getting back together. Wait, no, not T-Swift. Never, ever set these things equal to 0 initially. We use that to solve this quadratic, but you're not going to like add two angles up and set them equal to 0. That just doesn't make sense because the angle measure is not going to add up to 0. An angle is not going to equal 0 when you're solving these style problems, okay? You're either going to be setting them equal to each other if they're congruent, or you likely will be adding them up and setting them equal to, say, 180 or an angle measure that's given, right? We could even have like 90 if there's some perpendicular ones in there. So those are your main strategies, either equal to each other or add them up and set them equal to something else. That's what's going to make the most sense in this style problem, okay? Cool, awesome, dope, fantastic, wonderful, excellent. See you dogs later.